It's
When do they see? All right, I think we got the recording. All right, we'll let folks come in the room here. We've got 50 people in. All right, I want to welcome everybody to our session today. I'm so thrilled to be joined by this fantastic group of panelists. We've been chatting, waiting for you guys to come in. My name is Anson Green. I'm with Tyson Foods, and I'm really happy to really talk about something that was mentioned so much in the keynote about sustainability and growth and engagement with employers. A few quick housekeeping items. If in the chat, you can put your name, your position, and what you hope to learn in the session today. That'll help us build some community. And I'll be monitoring the chat as we go through with our questions and answers. And we're going to have some polls today. So please get ready for the polls because those are always exciting. The one thing I wanted to share with everybody too is this day is really focused on helping us build so much of a community with our business partners. And so there's a lot of adult educators here. And I hope you're taking good notes because we've got some great businesses lined up for the whole day. Sabra Phillips is joining us today, where they have deep experience. I mean, you can see these folks as your allies and comrades, and sometimes as adult educators, if you ask me. I mean, Sabra knows as much about adult education as I do in many regards. So she might not think so, but it's very much the case. So there's a lot to be learned from this perspective. Our goal today is to really share best practices in what to me is an astounding workplace literacy program, one that has been around since 2007. And I was thinking today, this morning, this is a session, a collaboration that's made it through the Great Recession. It's made it through the dot-com recession. It's made it through Hurricane Harvey. Now it's going through the pandemic, and things have just proceeded wonderfully with this collection of individuals. And it's all about our collaboration with behind every employer and really building that resource of workforce development. Let's see here. I lost my controls. The session set quickly here. Okay. So let me talk about our presenters here because we've got a really great group of presenters. First, I'm Anson Green. I'm with Tyson Foods, and I manage adult education and literacy collaborations with 50 different adult education providers across 16 states. So I'm in it all day long, up to the weeds, in working with adult education providers. And I come from that community. I've been in adult education for 25 years. I was formerly the state director of Texas. So I've got the credibility in terms of knowing the inside, what's inside the box when it comes to the adult education world. But now I'm kind of bridging those gaps with the employer community. So we have Angie De Leon joining us from Harris County Department of Education. And she is the program manager for a very, very large adult education provider in the Houston area. She was born and raised in Houston, so she's got the credibility in that local area. And Angie has, I think, really the competencies she's bring. She's a budget coordinator. She's been a program coordinator, and now she's a program manager. She knows the inside and the outside and the performance and the budget for running an adult ed program. So Angie's the type of person that would say no to doing something that didn't make sense for Harris County Department of Education. She doesn't, and her organization doesn't. She's got great expertise in business administration and education. So she kind of sees both sides of the equation. And then we have Sabra Phillips joining us, as I mentioned, from Marek, a 83-year construction contractor in the Houston area. And Marek has just been a huge partner when it comes to working with Harris County and with the adult education community since 2007. She's a third-generation construction advocate and has this in her DNA. And she's also the vice chair of the NCCER National Workforce Development Committee. Many of you that are listening know NCCR as kind of a critical curriculum resource for us in the construction trades. So let's get the show on the road here. And we're going to do some polls right now and learn a little bit about you. And I'm going to launch this first poll. So please tell us about yourself. Just answer the poll and we'll see who we got listening so we can kind of tailor our comments accordingly. Okay, it's filling up there. A lot of administrators, a lot of public workforce development representatives coming in, teachers. All right, thank you so much for joining here. All right, we're talking to a largely administrative crowd. So this is Angie's group. This is the group that's going to really know, how do I get this going, and how do we like sustain this and really do something that's meaningful in our community. Okay, and then I've got another poll here I want to do here. Let me see if I can get back to it here. Okay, it doesn't look like that one got loaded in the system. Not a problem. We're going to cruise on through here and really move on to the show. The first thing, here's how we're going to do the morning. I'm going to do some introductions, which I've just done, but then we're going to hear from each organization, from Marek and from Harris County Department of Education. So you have a context for the questions, because after we do the context, we're just going to bounce right out of the presentation and talk. And I'm going to ask questions and they're going to respond. And then we'll be looking at the chat to see what you have to say about what they're talking about. So let's hear about the organizations first. And that way you have kind of a footing for how to put this together. And before we do this, I wanted to say something about Harris County and Sabra, and the fact that this session goes back to 2007. And what I want to say is, there's another session this afternoon that has members from Harris County Department of Education in it that were the originators of this program. And so that's at 2 o'clock Central Time, 3 o'clock Eastern. It's called Beyond the First Meeting. And indeed, we've made it beyond the first meeting. It's 2021, and the first meeting was in 2007. I was actually part of that first meeting. But I want to encourage you to go to that session, because you'll get to hear kind of what are the elements that has made this so sustainable. And one of the things I think is important to note also is Sabra and Angie were not around in 2007. And so it says something about Marek, and it says something about Harris County, that there's been this continuity, this succession planning on an adult education topic. Marek builds things. They don't do it. They're not an education provider, but they are fully engaged in training and learning development as well as adult education. And then Harris County, man, they could do, they're in the downtown Houston. They could do, 1 million adult ed students without even blinking, but they're taking time to work with the business community also. And that says something about the DNA of the adult education program. So let's hear more, Angie, about Harris County. Tell us what you guys do there in a little bit so we can situate ourselves in the session. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Anson. Good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be speaking on behalf of Harris County Department of Education. And I want to encourage everyone to attend that session you just attended, because like you said, that is one of our founders to this collaboration. And I really know that it's going to be very helpful and interesting for you to join. So yes, you definitely want to join that training later on today. So I'm going to be speaking a little bit of Harris County Department of Education, a brief overview, the Marek collaboration, and some of our current outcomes as it pertains to Marek and HCD. So yes, HCD provides ESL, GED, workforce training, and citizenship classes within the Harris and Liberty County. Pre-COVID, we were able to function in a face-to-face mode at approximately 45 locations within the Harrison County, Liberty County, which really made it accessible for our students to attain this type of service from us. But then COVID hit, and we're transitioned into a virtual mode. And so that is where we are now. All of our ESL and GED classes are virtual. We do have a few face-to-face currently workforce training classes, but as I mentioned, the majority of our classes are virtual. As you can see here, we have been in the adult education era for 20 years, probably more, but it's been very successful. And here in 2021, we have served 2,400 students. And just to give you a little perspective of what that number really stands, our yearly target, enrollment target is about 5,700 students. And here we are, not even December, in the middle of, still COVID, and we are almost halfway there. So this is just to give you a little perspective of how well, we've been able to transition, from face-to-face to virtual with COVID in the mix. And so that is where we are in terms of our enrollment. Also, just want to share that we're able to do this. We're able to serve this student population with 153 staff, qualified teachers, administrators, and support staff who really care about, our community and our workforce goals. I want to say that each of our staff member is required at least 15 hours of professional development, which really, really helps in providing quality of instruction to our student population. So this is a brief overview of Harris County Department of Education. I want to transition now to our Marek collaboration. As Anson has mentioned, we have been in this collaboration for 14 years. And like I said, or like Anson mentioned, Sabra and I are fairly new at it, but our ex-colleagues and partners, will present later on, who were pretty much the founders of this collaboration. And I have to give credit to them because it is due to that strong foundation that they established. Here we are today, 14 years, still collaborating in a very professional and successful way. We've been able to offer ESO classes. We've been able to do assist with the NCCER certification. And here as of lately, in our cohort that we are working with right now, we are doing ESO classes, but the participants are virtual. So here we are, providing a new service to the employees at Marek. And again, so some of the key factors in this successful collaboration, I have to say, is due to, the customization. When we go in and partner with any employer, we always have to take into consideration, their schedules. What is it that they need in order for their students to succeed? So that's another very key element in the Marek collaboration. And like I said, what are some of the things that we provide for our students? Well, they are able to increase or improve their English skills, digital literacy, safety, and technology knowledge. And that's how we collaborate here at Marek. Can we go to the next? Some of our outcomes for this year, and I didn't want to go too far back because this is where we are today, and it is a different scenario from our traditional face-to-face, but just to say, in this short period of time since we've been back after COVID, we have been able to serve 100 students at Marek. The average class size is 15 to 20 students per class. And let me tell you, every time I go in there and visit, it is just so amazing to see a full class, almost a full class. I mean, we have the onesies and twosies that are not able to make it sometimes, but as you can see, the average daily attendance in a classroom is 8%. And last but not least, I want to talk about the 40% gained a level in literacy. It might sound a little low, but again, with COVID in mind, this is still a pretty good percentage. On average, when we were doing classes before, the percentage was between 60-70%. But again, being in the situations that we are currently, it is really good to say that 40% of our students at Marek have been able to gain a level in their literacy.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Angie. You really provided a great foundation for the adult education lens. And I mean, for the audience listening, this is a huge provider. You mentioned her enrollment targets, 5,700 people. That's as big as some whole state enrollments. So they've got a lot going on in downtown Houston there in the surrounding area. But they make time to work with businesses, and anybody that's done this, and I see in the chat, we've got people that are collaborating with businesses. It does take more effort and time to customize and to tailor. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're an administrator, you might think to yourself, why take all this time when I'm in Houston and I could just serve anybody by opening a class in a church or a library or down in a local public school? Why take this effort? But I think what you'll hear from Marek and from what you'll see from the presentation in general, there are these other kind of great benefits of working with your business community and connecting in that way that kind of have a ripple effect throughout the whole program. So Sabra, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell our audience about Marek and this program that seems to seem super embedded in working with adult educators across the country.
Sure. Good morning. It's a privilege to be here with everyone and get to visit with Anson and Angie, and also honor all those who've been a part of this program for 14 years. But at Marek, just to give you a little bit of a kind of overview, we're a third generation family owned and employee driven specialty contractor, primarily in commercial construction. So we build hospitals, schools, museums, office buildings, stadiums, and more. We're based in Houston, and we have operations all throughout the state of Texas, as well as in Georgia and Tennessee. So that just kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. Anson, you can jump forward to the next slide. I would say that at Marek, we're known for investing in our people and for promoting from within. So we offer several key competency-based talent programs across the company. So the great news is people have the opportunity to start entry level and move up and kind of go into a number of careers, all within construction. So with Harris County, Department of Education, we primarily focus on adult literacy and ESL related to our craft professional talent development program, and in some cases in preparation for our field leadership talent development program. So that's really where what you'll hear about, the programs you'll hear about today are really happening more so in our craft space. And so Anson, I'll turn it back over to you. I know you have some questions for us, so I'll go. I don't want to hold us up any further. We can go ahead and jump in.
Absolutely. I'm going to turn the sharing off here and just get right into the discussion here. We've learned a little bit about each organization and kind of are ready to really find out more what's going on there and how do they do their business. And my first question is going to be for Sabra. And it's a question that really speaks to the types of business culture that are fertile ground for workforce literacy programs. Marek has always been real forward looking in this area. And having done this for many years, I can tell you that not every business might be the right business to do a workplace literacy program. That sounds kind of bold or brash, but it's true. You've got to make sure that in your initial analysis, working with the business, if you're an adult educator, that the company really has it in their fire in their soul to really want to work for that workforce aspect of things for their frontline workforce and their entry level or helper workforce. And not all businesses get it, and that's fine. But I think more and more you're seeing businesses get more focused on this. And we heard in the keynote that now it is kind of a workers market when it comes to the labor market. And workers want to come work at a place where there's going to be investment across the continuum in them. And that's what you see at with Sabra and Marek, is that even that helper level workforce can look around, listen around and say like, hey, there's something here for me. I don't have to be a skilled technician to take part in career development. They've got some entry level stuff here and ESL foundational stuff that's going to really benefit me as an individual worker. So Sabra, at Marek, you've always had this very forward-looking business culture when it comes to employment and workforce upskilling, especially in the skilled crafts areas, which is such a big sector. How do you feel Marek differentiates itself from your competitors in the way it views its frontline workers and its workforce overall?
Good question, Anson. I think that part of what differentiates us is our mindset, or our heart set, if you will. So our craft professionals, our field supervisors on the front lines, these folks are the heart of who we are. It's why the company was created, to create opportunity. This is our team who is actually putting all of this work in place. They're very talented. They're very hardworking professionals. They build amazing places. So everyone else in the community has somewhere to go to work, has somewhere to go to learn, can go somewhere to be healed, to celebrate, and more. So I think that it starts with the mindset, and then that mindset in turn informs, the actions we take. So, we do offer formal structured training programs, which some people in commercial and in construction do offer those, some people don't. I do think that not everyone offers entry level programs that take you from the ground entry level up to leadership, and we do. And then I think the other thing that differentiates us is that our training is linked to career paths. And we've had a lot of feedback from our team members telling us, hey, what made a difference for me is that I saw not only do I have opportunities to train and grow, but that is leading me to a career and other opportunities in the company, whether it's field leadership or any number of other, whether someone wants to be a master craft professional, whether they want to lead others, whether they want to help people be safe, project manage. So it could really lead you anywhere in the industry. So, for those who are interested and they want to grow with us, we have that opportunity.
I think that's something that's really important for everyone to take note of, and I see this at Tyson too. That entry level, frontline, helper level workforce, they don't want to be a helper level all their lives. They want to grow, and when they can see that investment and they hear from their friends that might already work at Marek, that this is a place that you can actually grow, and that they will make that investment in you. I think it's a really potent recruitment tool, and one that, there's nothing like word of mouth when it comes to job development and spreading the word about where to go get a job, especially in the construction industry, where there's just, in Houston, thousands of employers, but not thousands of workplace literacy programs at construction employers. That English language learner that may have very minimal Spanish may say, hey, I need to learn English, of course, and of course I need to work, and wait a minute, I can do both these things at Marek. I'm going to go work there. That makes a lot of sense. So tell us more about these classes, Sabra. Marek has implemented a wide variety of services over the years. Can you tell me what those have been, and give the audience a little bit of perspective of what are these kind of classes? Is it just ESL? Like, what kind of stuff do you do?
Sure. So as you mentioned, the partnership dates back to 2007. I've been here for the last 7 years, so only for about half that time. But so we've really done a lot of different things during that time. I think one of the hallmarks of our partnership is the ability to evolve. And I think you've seen that. So we've been through a number of program iterations, I would say primarily in 2 areas. One around adult literacy skills relating to math, and math as it relates to construction. And then on the English literacy skills, a big focus on that as well. So a couple of programs I'll mention that I think maybe are more unique, or maybe not, from others on the phone might be like, hey, we're already doing that where we are, but we've found them highly successful. One we started a few years ago, and that's kind of this integrated ESL and technical construction skills, right, offering around our basic and advanced blueprint courses. So both blueprint skills and English skills are required if you want to move into sort of a crew leadership or a field supervisory role. So we were able to partner with Harris County and create, basically build around our existing blueprint and basic and advanced courses and incorporate, build in, kind of customized, contextualized ESL, so that the students loved coming to class to learn skills in the profession and trade they love that's going to help them grow and get better, at the same time learning English skills. So those courses are a huge hit, and we typically are offering them once or twice a year. It depends. We were slowed down a little bit with COVID. But then, as Angie mentioned earlier, the new thing we've been offering this year, and maybe the illiteracy graduation rates aren't quite as high, but also we just started these cohorts in June. So I think that might also, just FYI, it's not like we've had these new classes, but these are virtual instructor-led ESL courses that also include a little bit of self-directed learning in between courses, in between classes. And what we've seen is we offered the first cohort in June, and then based on interest, a couple of months later, we started 2 new cohorts based on interest. We just started our 4th and 5th cohort. So what we found is that 90% of the folks in the first cohort have started, have either completed their 2nd course, or most of them are actually in their 3rd and actively enrolled in the current session. So they've moved from basic to intermediate, and in some cases to advanced. So we think that's, we've gotten a huge response, and I consider them ESL, DSL classes. So English is a second language, digital is a second language, because really they're learning all the online skills, they're just learning a lot, beyond just learning English. So those have been huge, and we're planning to expand that next year.
Wow, this is just blowing my mind. I mean, this is first off, we're not talking about one class. We're talking about multiple cycles, and we saw those numbers from Angie. That's in itself, a very big rarity, but it shows that you have kind of not had, it's not a cottage little program over here. This is a system within Marek being provided through the adult education provider. And I love these transition rates that you're talking about in terms of folks taking the next course. I remember, y'all saw the initial pictures at the PowerPoint. There's a picture of that class. It's a Marek class that we were trying to diagnose how far back that class goes, although the instructor's the same. But I know I've been using that picture for probably 8 or 9 years. And that was a blueprint class. And I actually, when I was state director in Texas, highlighted the blueprint reading ESL course that Marek was doing, because I just loved that it was really directed at something that Marek needed as a core foundational competency, reading a blueprint, because it goes back to reduced waste and all those kind of things that construction just basically relies on for profits. So I love this continuity and this depth. I'm going to turn this over to Angie and ask her a few questions, because there's a lot of administrators on here, Angie. And having been the adult ed state director and a local administrator, I'm always remembered about how you're really just surviving on your performance measures. Sometimes you feel that way. You're like, oh my gosh, we've got to make our enrollment measures. We've got to make our measurable skills gains. And we get obsessed over that. It is easy to get to a point where you're like, anything else is a distraction. And anything that's going to take a lot of my time. And maybe you test yourself with one workplace program. You're doing 4 or 5 of them at Marek, and with other employers. So with a big organization like Harris County Department of Ed, you've been there 17 years. You guys have 2,400 students currently enrolled. How do you see employers fitting as a customer for adult education? What is the philosophy at Harris County that says, yes, we have students as a customer, and then employers are a customer also? Tell us more about that culture.
Yes. So from an AEL provider's view, employers become our customers the minute that we are able to establish a partnership by meeting their literacy needs. For example, we have several employers, and a great example here, Marek, well, they had a literacy need and they reached out to our organization because they had a need. So that is the first step in creating these collaborations. And one of the things that we intentionally do at the beginning of all of our partnerships is we do an assessment for their needs, a needs assessment survey. And once we get an overview of what is it that they are needing, and this, we do it with the administrators as well as with the students, so that we can get a clear picture of what the literacy need is, and for us to be able to determine, okay, how are we going to customize our services to this employer, because that is what the partnership is made of.
Absolutely. And I love that. And I'm noticing something too. And I was looking in the participants just now that really underscores why you can make room for this discussion and this work with employers. And this is something for the administrators on the call. There's some state directors on this call, and it's a message I want to send being a former state director. Texas actually prioritizes through our funding to programs like Angie's, performance measures, and additional funding for doing the work with employers. We made a decision at the state level that we had to embrace our employer community. That's why in 2018, Texas served a quarter of all the workplace literacy programs in the whole country, because we put a priority on it at the state level. And then the local program directors and coordinators like Angie said, this is not an option. This is something we have to do. And this is a message to the administrators out there in other states. If you want to see employer engagement, if you want to see those things that we need to have for WIOA performance measures, remember one of the measures is effectiveness in serving employers. Everybody forgets about that one. It's a measure, federal measure. You've got to make that kind of strategic policy change and really allow that and encourage that flexibility. And you see that Angie, I mean, she was kind of, when we first talked about this question, like, well, of course we do this, because she sees that as part of their core performance. It's not some extra thing. And so I think that's something we need to learn from across the nation and our other states about putting that priority in there to help us grow. So I'm going to turn it back to Sabra and talk about this 14-year-old program that's just really been evolving over the years through Hurricane Harvey. I mean, I think about all these things the program has been through, staff changes, and it is sustained. So Sabra, you're the talent development leader at Marek, working largely in Texas, but in other states. And I want you to talk about, like, when you work with Harris County, what are the elements that you see in that relationship that help you sustain it? What are the things they do, their behaviors? Because this is what the audience listening, you guys need to take notes, because this is a 14-year relationship. It has lasted through staff changes and all kinds of turmoil in the economy and in the nature with the hurricanes, and it's still here. What is it about Harris County that makes this work for you, Sabra?
Well, I would say it's a partnership, number one. So we are partners, and I feel like we work together. But so I think that's the overarching thing, is that we're partners, and we're both looking to have shared wins along with our team members who are participating in the program. So I wasn't originally going to say this, but I also think, based on what I've heard, the reason I think the workplace literacy is so important in working with employers who are willing to invest themselves, right? You both have to be willing to invest together, and so do the team members. Everybody's making an investment, right, to make this a win, to create wins. But we're here to help careers. So we want to translate that learning to continued growth opportunities for people, where they can earn and take care of their families or whatever they're wanting to do in life. So I do think the literacy linked to careers and growth and is really important for people. So that's why we're so grateful that I didn't even really know, to be honest, that Texas was different from any other state. Yeah. But I'm grateful we are doing that, because that's what we want to do, is provide careers for people. And if there's any barrier to them, to our team members achieving the success they want to achieve, we want to make sure we can remove that barrier if we're all willing to put into work together. But I would say, so partnership is the overarching thing, but I do think I mentioned earlier, the ability to evolve over time is so important. So our needs have changed over 14 years. They change year to year. Sometimes it's a multi-year, but things evolve. Likewise, Harris County maybe has something new to offer. They may have discovered a new best practice working with another employer partner that they're bringing to us and saying, have y'all thought about this? So this idea that we both can evolve over time is really important. I think hand in hand with that is customization. I mean, so the fact that it's not just a cookie cutter program, they're able to work with us. Sure, we're utilizing some of the things they have, but we're saying, hey, could we tweak it this way to work for us and for our team members? So we've been able to do that. Now, I will say that's interestingly, that's been a huge hallmark of success in Houston, but that ability to customize maybe has also hurt us when we've tried to kind of look at expanding to other locations, because sort of maybe the other location has a different way of doing it that doesn't align with our objectives. So then, but because we've seen it happen, we know it can be done. So sometimes that has actually maybe not helped us in the ability to scale it. We're still in the process of figuring that out, but we're so grateful that we have what we have. And then I think the final thing is teamwork. So as we've mentioned all along, Angie and I are here today, but there are many people who came before us that were hugely, a huge part of all of the many years of success. In addition, we both have teams around us that actually make this work day to day. So for example, on the Marek side, Ricardo, our craft training, superintendent here in Houston, he and his team, several people who work closely with Angie's team every day to make, like, for example, this latest virtual ESL program work. And one of his head coaches, Jessica, and then now another head coach, they're bilingual in English and Spanish, and they actually attend these classes every time the class is offered. So the cohort has their instructor from Harris County, and then they have our head coach attending the class to help with anything, whether it be helping our team members with their virtual, like digital, as they're kind of figuring out how to work the system, just to help bring that continuity and that person to help. So there's a lot of other people behind the scenes. And I do think that teamwork, it wouldn't be possible without, the teamwork on, with everyone involved. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was taking a lot of notes there. So partnerships, the customization, the teamwork, and you said something I'm really impressed with about learning best practices that maybe are coming out of other adult education collaborations with business. And that is, I think, something that doesn't get talked about enough. But when you work with a business and you're doing a program like the ones that this great group is describing, there's a lot of these kind of secondary outcomes. One of them is Angie and Harris County are learning a lot more about the kind of needs of business and how to work with business. That is beneficial because they have thousands of students that are looking for jobs. And now Angie can go into a classroom and talk about work, not the way, maybe she conceives it herself, but based on what she hears Sabra saying is needed. Right. And that really helps the adult learner that's looking for work say to themselves, man, this place really is going to help me get a job because they work with employers. On the other hand, when Angie goes in and talks with Sabra, Sabra is hearing these things about other employer collaborations where they've built different curriculum models or different ways to arrange the schedules, different ways to market. And so Sabra is gaining more intelligence in terms of things they can do together. So you see the students are gaining, the students that are unemployed, that are not working at Marek are gaining, and then Angie and Sabra are both growing their expertise in terms of being able to customize. And that customization is something that I think makes this really critical. And of course, all of that is teamwork. We're working so well together. We got some questions coming in, and I'm responding to some of you folks that are coming in because our time is precious here and it goes fast. I want to go back to Angie because I know adult education, rightly so, is obsessive about performance accountability. And having been the state director, I can tell you, I was the one with the hammer, making sure those performance measures were met. But when I heard Sabra say, like, when I go to other locations or states, it's not as easy as it is here in Texas. It is true because I think there's different perspectives of what performance accountability looks like in other states. And sometimes the priority isn't on working with employers. But at the end of the day, we still have these performance measures from the federal government. So Angie, like, how do you balance like getting measurable skills gains and getting those kind of elements out of a class where they're online, they're working? This is a harder class to facilitate than your nighttime ESL class where everybody shows up and there's 40 people and they're all eager to go. Tell us about the performance perspective, because that's what you do. You're a accountability and administrative guru over there at Harris County. How do you balance those needs?
So, of course, first of all, we have to understand what, our goals and our objectives are on both sides of the partnership, right? But if I can explain it in a simple way, when we do these types of partnerships, I like to say we do baby steps, because like we've been talking about customization, right? Every collaboration is different. We have different scenarios. And so, but at the end of the day, we have these performance measures that we have to meet. So how do we do baby steps? Okay. So we know that in order for our student or the students at Marek or the students that are involved in this collaboration, in order for them to count towards our performance measures, they have to have 12 hours. So guess what? Sometimes these classes cannot meet on a traditional setting of 3 days a week. So, but what do we do? Okay, well, can this class meet on a Saturday, or can this class meet twice a week? And so sometimes we have to work with the schedules in order to meet that first step of meeting the 12 hours of instruction. And then once we do that, then we can focus on other measures of, like meeting either the 40-hour rule or the 60-hour rule. But like I said, as we go, and it depending on what the need or what the logistics of that partnership is, we have to learn to accommodate, the employer. And because this is a partnership, it's not a one-sided business. We have to meet both needs, the employer need as well as our performance here at Harris County Department of Education.
We're running to the end of our show. We got some great questions. I want to thank everybody. And I want to answer a couple of these questions. One, in terms of funding, this is funded through the federal adult education funding. And in Texas, as I mentioned earlier, providers get an extra amount of funding for workplace literacy programs. And that is something that I did when I was state director to incentivize this. And if you don't have that in your state, you should clamor for it. And I will help you work with your state director, because I know all of them, and maybe advocating for that to build that capacity. The other thing before we close here, we didn't get to the question, but one thing that keeps getting mentioned that I just love is this focus on digital literacy. These classes are remote, and Sabra is so eloquent about talking about the multiple literacies that they embrace at Marek. So this is not an education thing, this is a company thing, but they want their employees to be technology infused and competent. And so she thinks of literacy as the digital side, which she mentioned earlier, the ESL side, the technical side, multiple literacies. And I think that is something that educators need to bring to employers as something that we do. Digital literacy is our business, and they are looking for it. And maybe that's your first foot in to working with a business. So we're ending here. I want to encourage you to come to the 3 o'clock session on the East Coast, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the Central Time Zone, to hear more about the nuts and bolts of how this course actually came to be and what were the best practices overall in workplace literacy. So thank you for your time. And if you want to send us questions, our emails are on the PowerPoints. We'll be happy to address them. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the event today. Thank you, presenters, and Sabra and Angie. Have a great day.
Thank you, Anson. Thank you, Angie. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Y'all have a great day.